Keith Hernandez joins us for this episode of the Shea Anything podcast. Lots to discuss with Keith and his health. He'll give us an update. Also, what's been going on with the New York Mets, or what hasn't been going on with the New York Mets with all these rainouts. We'll talk about it all. It starts right now. Welcome to the show, everybody. Doug Williams and Keith Hernandez with you. I had some trouble with the cold open, and it really sounded like I called Keith Hernandez Keith Hemorrhoid or something.
I've been called worse.
Oh, man. A reminder to subscribe to this podcast wherever you listen to your podcasts. Also rate and review us as well. We appreciate it. And Shea Anything is now brought to you by Verizon. It's 5G, but right for the Mets from the network. More people rely only on Verizon. All right, Keith. All we know is really what Gary and Ronnie have told us in the booth, that you had a fall outside your home and you had a toe injury. How are you? What's the latest with your health?
Well, I'm on the mend. I'll be back in the booth after the All-Star break. I was scheduled to do the four games home against the Pirates, but I've got to keep my foot elevated. So my toe got infected after the day after. I left the ER room, so I had to go back in, and I was overnight in the hospital and getting intravenous antibiotics. But I'm okay. I'm on the mend. It'll take around a month to heal. I did something very foolish, and I'm lucky to be alive.
So you feel like it could have been much, much, much worse than it was. Like, you're grateful that you were just saying before we started taping, grateful that you didn't get paralyzed or worse.
I had to run a 4-foot fall. So, and I fell horizontal. So I slipped.
Jeez.
I didn't have any shoes on, and balancing myself on the hot tub to snip a rose branch that was causing my security camera to go out. It was deadening the battery, and it was because it was moving in the wind. And I had let it go for a couple of days, and as a result, I slipped and I fell, and I could have been seriously hurt. Just all very lucky.
Well, Keith, we're happy that you're, alive and well, and we're excited to hear you back in the booth soon. And we're grateful that you're still willing to do the podcast this week, despite the fact that, look, the Mets need a retractable roof. I mean, Keith, do you remember a season where, like, you could make a legitimate case that Mother Nature has made a legitimate impact on the Mets season? Like, do you remember this happening in the past to this extent?
I remember just springs, April showers. We've had rainy Aprils, but never like this, where there's been this much rain. What, 10 doubleheaders now, I believe, for the Mets?
I think you're right.
And it's extraordinary. It puts a burden on the pitching staff, that's for sure. So we've had a lot of guys come up and make these starts in the second game that really wouldn't be necessary. But we've had injuries. Our injuries continue to. Peterson's out now, so it keeps putting you keep trying to pull a rabbit out of your hat. Yeah.
Well, not just the pitching staff, but it just feels like so many doubleheaders. I don't know the percentages. I don't have them in front of me, but so many doubleheaders are split. Even the 7 games, it's just by a vast majority what happens when 2 teams play doubleheaders.
Right.
So the Mets are finally getting healthy, feel like they have a good mojo going, and it's really hard to sweep 2 games in a day, and it's hard for them to get going. Like, I don't think their last 10 game record or so is really a good representation of the baseball that they're playing. And I think a large part of that is that all season, it's just seemed like they have had a really hard time getting going. I don't know if Steve Cohen listens to this podcast. I don't know if he cares at all about these rain delays. I know he's been playing weatherman on Twitter, but if it is within the budget of the money that he has to build a retractable roof over Citi Field, that would seem to be a good decision.
That's kind of impractical, don't you think? I mean, how are they going to do that? I mean, the stadium's already built. I don't see how you can do it. I don't think it needs a retractable roof. I think this is just one of those years And I like the open air stadium, to be honest with you.
Well, I do too, but I mean, these rainouts are. And by the way, if you paid for a ticket to watch DeGrom for 9 innings, and then you get DeGrom for 7 and a day game when you paid for a night game, like it's not good for the fans. It's not good for our network. It's not good for the players who have to play more innings in a day. I don't know. I mean, look, it's not my money. It's one of those situations where I'm like, yeah, go sign this $300 million player, build a retractable roof. But I'm a fan of open air too, Keith. I just think it's getting a little out of hand. All right, let's do 3-batter rule here. So Keith, since we last talked to you, I mean, we've moved really into mid-July, and we have the news today that, the Cubs, it appears like, are going to be sellers. And so teams are starting to make those decisions as we move towards the trade deadline. What do you think Zach Scott should do? What do you think he's looking at this team and seeing right now?
Well, that's a tough question. I mean, you don't want to make – I like what I've read in the papers, what Zach has been saying. He's not going to make any panic move or imprudent move. The team's in first place. I mean, the National League East is the gift that keeps giving for the Mets. And they still got a 4.5 game lead. So there's no need to panic. Getting the troops back healthy. You've got to feel that the offense will pick up now that they've gotten everybody back. We'll see. They are still a mystery to me how, they can get shut out the second game with a doubleheader, only get 3 hits. They're kind of a Jekyll and Hyde offense. But they've put together some really, really impressive late 9th inning, 8th inning comeback wins, so it's kind of like they're on a rough sea. They're up here, they're down there, and but they're still 4 games in front. So I don't think there's any need to panic. I think the pitching, if it holds up, is gonna carry this team like it did the whole first half. So there's really no need. Now, what I found interesting, I don't know if there's any truth to it, was the interest that I read in a blog. Who knows if you can believe anything, but the Mets are interested in the second baseman, the all-star second baseman for the Pirates.
Adam Frazier.
That I find interesting, which I would think, I don't know who would go, but and who would you have to give up? But that would be kind of an interesting addition to the ball club. I'm going to watch him very carefully tonight's game and tomorrow's doubleheader, and all the 4 games. Obviously, I got the 3 games, but I'm going to take a good look at him.
So when you say no need to panic, are you saying no need to make a huge blockbuster move to try and improve?
No, team's in first place. Got good pitching. Got to look at the bullpen. Every time I write my scorecard up, I look at the bullpen. Even though Castro's kind of regressing a little bit, becoming not reliable, you still got Familia pitching great. You got Lugo. You've got Diaz, May. Loop has been fantastic. The bullpen is just a terrific bullpen, in my opinion. And the starting rotation has been pitching well. The big 3 can pitch. I'm be curious to watch Stroman start. He's hit a little bump in the road right now. His last couple starts, he needs to get it back on track. If we have that big 3 in the rotation, it keeps you away from losing streaks. And no one in the National League East wants to win.
One of the things, Keith, that I know we're going to talk about on Baseball Night in New York tonight, but that I find really interesting to examine is exactly what you're talking about. So you're saying this is a good team with a good bullpen, good rotation. They're going to hit good bench. They're going to hit. I agree with you.
I'm not saying they're going to hit. I haven't got a crystal ball, but I think they're underperforming. It's obvious
right
where their numbers are. They're underperforming. And is it going to continue the second half? I can't see it going in on the same path. I got to see it. I got to see an uptick. There's got to be an uptick.
Right. I didn't mean to put words in your mouth, but that's exactly what I think. I think the team will eventually hit. So having said that, don't you think that's exactly the formula that you do want to add to? Because it's not that you need to, but like you said, the NL East is the gift that keeps on giving. You've got the division, I think. So,
never say that. Never say that.
Well,
no, don't ever say that.
I'm not, you know what? You're the former player. I'm just the guy who talks into a microphone. So I feel comfortable saying that. But as a former player, I totally understand your point of view. I'm not jinxing anything. I'm just saying, look, I think the Mets are by far the best team in the division.
I'll agree.
Doesn't that put you in a position where you do want to add? Like, because
why would you want to add if you're the best team?
Because then once you get in the postseason, you got to beat the Dodgers, you got to beat the Padres, you maybe have to beat the Giants. Like, you're adding to what you think is already a winning formula, as opposed to, yeah, we might be good. Let's make a trade and see if we can be great. In this situation, you're trying to make yourself a real finished product. Do you see the point I'm trying to make?
Yeah, but it also is a lot of variables. What are you giving up? We don't know that. People like to speculate, like the second baseman for the Pirates, but who we got to give up? Do we do a second baseman trade-off? Do we send McNeil to the Pirates? Is he going to be part of the deal with the Pirates? Aren't going to want to come away with nothing. They're probably, McNeil is a guy that would be under their control, doesn't command a big salary, and they're a low budget team, and they'll try to get some minor league players. But we're speculating. We just don't know what's out there and what they want. And the Mets have made it pretty obvious they're reluctant to give up their value to the minor leaguers that they feel are prospects.
Yeah, I think in years past, we've looked at Mets rosters and been like, yeah, they could make a run. I don't know. But should they make a big trade? Is it worth giving up all your prospects when it's no sure thing that, they're a playoff team? And I know it's not a sure thing now. There are no guarantees in life, but it feels like the division is kind of being handed to them in certain ways. So it feels like, why not capitalize? Why not make an aggressive move now to try and improve your already very good roster?
Well, they've already been prudent in the offseason, and they said they would be. And they've made this club infinitesimally better than it was last year with the moves they made. And they didn't go, Batwano and spend a fortune. My concern is you've got some history here with the general manager that went to the Red Sox, and the Red Sox win the World Series.
Theo Epstein.
Then he goes to Chicago. Now you've got the Mets that haven't won in 35 years. And do you make an improve? Do you want to be, from an ego standpoint, be that guy that brings a new championship? Of course you want to. That's your job. But do you become brash, and so that is so much in front that you make imprudent moves? I just don't feel that this club needs a lot, to be honest with you.
I think that's a valid point for sure.
Because it would be the great, if the team comes and wins the next World Series, it's like when 69 to 86 was basically 15 years. This is 35 years. It's been a long time.
Yeah, it's twice the.
Yeah, it has been a long time, and the group that comes in and brings back the championship is going to be hailed, and that's what Zach wants. That's what Alderson wants. That's their job to bring, and that's to be a big crown for them and a big achievement to take an organization that hasn't won in 35 years.
I mean, imagine being Steve Cohen. Year one of your ownership to try and win a World Series. I mean, if you're Steve Cohen,
so that's what we're here for. We're here to win every year if we can, right?
Right.
So, but it's been 35 years. It's time for a new Met team to come up and be and wear the crown.
You're ready to, you're ready to pass the baton.
We're old, man. It's hard. It's getting heavy on my neck.
So I want to talk to you about Jacob deGrom skipping the All-Star game, because you've been in the booth for some of these games where he, leaves early, and we watch his health so closely because we know he's had, 3 or more issues already this season. He says the timing didn't really work out. He may pitch Sunday. He wants to spend time with his family and relax, and he just doesn't think it's smart to pitch in the All-Star game. What do you think of his decision?
Well, I blame MLB for turning the game into a carnival instead of a game that was very important in my generation and the generations before me, where it was a prideful thing. You were representing the National League, and you didn't want to lose. They've turned it into a 4-day from a 3-day event to a 4-day circus with all this crap that has nothing to do with the game. And I think they have the significance of the game, which I think is gone, and it's more showtime. So I don't blame the players. It's 4 days. They run them through all this rigmarole, and they wear them out. I was at the 5 All-Star games. There were 3 days. You flew in on the Sunday after the day game. And then Monday, you got settled in. You had a dinner that night you had to attend, which was great fun. The next day was my first All-Star game was Seattle when Mazzelli hit the home run lead. And they had a big Alaskan, a Native American, Northern Indian salmon feast on an island that was just spectacular in Puget Sound. It was one of the greatest events I've ever been to. And then you had to work out, and then you played the game, and you got on the airplane the next day. Now you got a home run contest, all this other BS, which is great for the fans, but the game has lost its significance. So I don't blame the players. I really don't blame them. And I think that Jacob is doing the prudent thing. I think it's more important the second half of the season, keeping him healthy.
Well, your point is well taken. That would you rather spend 4 days on a beach in the Bahamas and relax in the middle of a long, grueling season, or would you rather do?
I didn't make that kind of money back.
These guys are. Jacob deGrom is, Keith.
I know. Well, I tell you, when I didn't go to the All-Star game, I just All-Star break, I sat home and I relaxed. And then you had to work out the next, you were Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Remember, you only had maybe 2 or 3 guys go to the All-Star game. What about the rest of the team? You had to work out the day before.
Yeah.
So.
But don't you think interleague play is a big part of it too? Because the unique nature of seeing these guys play against each other doesn't really feel that unique anymore. Like before interleague play, you were watching the National League play the American League and seeing guys compete against each other for the first and only time of that season until the World Series potentially, right? So not only do you have the MLB at Bat app, so I can watch the Padres every night, but you're watching the Padres play the Angels. So you've seen Ohtani and Tatis. I don't know if that's actually happened this year, but I'm just saying those unique matchups never used to happen until the Midsummer Classic and then the Fall Classic.
Well, I'm not a fan of interleague play. So I would rather see us play more in out of division in league. I've said it on the air, just do the Yankees, 2, 3, home and away, and somehow figure out a schedule. And I know that Gary mentioned once they moved Houston and made it 15 and 15, there's got to be on each side, not the imbalance that, there's always an interleague game. There has to be because there's 15 teams. So what are they going to do? Add 2 more teams to make it even? Was that going to further dilute, the talent pool? I don't know. You're not going to retract. You're not going to take away teams. So I don't think that interleague play has had any effect on the All-Star game. I think it's become corrupted by big money. It's corporate. Baseball's become corporate.
Yeah, it's becoming a little bit like the NFL's Pro Bowl. In terms
they have more of a reason because I wouldn't want to go to the Pro Bowl. I can get hurt.
Right. It's a contact sport.
Shoot, you kidding me?
And I feel like the MLB All-Star Game's kind of hanging by a thread because of how seriously guys are treating their bodies. Somebody like Jacob deGrom, who is so focused on how he feels each time out. Why would he go throw a meaningless inning in a season where he's trying to keep his ERA below 1 and win a third Cy Young. It feels like the stakes are even higher. When he was younger, he probably wanted to be at that stage and prove what he could do to a national audience, and he did that in Cincinnati. I don't think I'll ever forget it. But now he's proven everything he needs to prove. Why risk it? When the All-Star games become that's problematic.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And remember too, there's a lot, I think, on sports in general, is too overexposure. When I was growing up, you had game of the week on Saturday, and you had the Giants and the Dodgers, and the Astros were the only teams that we can watch. And as the All-Star game, you had radio. So you had people that never saw Ted Williams play in person, or for say that it was, you throw Kershaw back into the 40s, never see Kershaw pitch. And it's a big deal then to be in Detroit, and here comes Warren Spahn, here comes Kershaw, all the greats. It's a big deal. But now with all this television, and you can see games every night, as you mentioned, I think it's overexposure, and it's not doesn't have the I can't think of the right term, but it just doesn't have that aura about it anymore. It's become, it's pretty mundane that you can watch any game you want every day if you want. You can watch 5 games if you want, if you're crazy.
Yeah, if you're Gary Cohen and you want to know, he knows. I just don't know how he has that knowledge that he has.
Well, Gary told me that he's stopped watching some games, like the games like he used to. He reads more of the newspaper column. He is connected on the computer with all the writers on all the teams throughout both leagues. And so he keeps it. He's up on every team, and he's got that bear trap brain of his that he's amazing.
I've just always wondered, how I'll do a cut in the middle of a game, Keith. I don't even know if you can ever see them. Like a play that just happened in the 5th inning of the Reds game. He'll be like, let's check in with Doug Williams for the game break. And I'm like, all right, so Nick Castellanos just hit a double to right center field. The Reds are up on the Phillies 5-4. And Gary will come back without skipping a beat and be like, yeah, Nick Senzel had a double in the 2nd inning. And I'm like, aren't you doing play-by-play and not skipping a beat in the actual game that's going on? And somehow more than I do about the Reds game. The way his brain works it's a marvel. I don't know how. I don't get it.
He has his laptop next to him, and I don't know how to do this, but he has multiple screens so he can click. So he's all set up before the game, and he'll have a website, different websites he can go to, and Twitter, because a lot of writers now are Twittering in game, right? Tweeting. And so he's always going in different screens and bringing up different screens. He's set up. He's got a whole deal going on that's pretty remarkable. I look out of the corner of my eye and I'm amazed.
You were Twittering before the podcast, responding to the video of the truck, which I really enjoyed.
Oh, I thought it was great. They did that once before when Bill Webb was alive. They did a commercial when it was MSG. I believe it was MSG. And I mentioned that a long time ago to Greg, and I'm so glad they put that up because the fans don't know what's going on. I mean, that's a lot. You talk about Gary doing play-by-play, the director and the producer and the cameraman have to be on doing it right then in real time. And I thought that was just very enlightening. I'm used to it, I know, but I'm in the game. I'm upstairs, so I forget what's going on. I hear them in the truck talking, and but the visual was good for me because it let me know what goes on in there to make the broadcast really the best it can be.
Yeah, it was Greg Picker, who's the producer, obviously, and has been for forever with Gary, Keith, and Ron. And then I think John DeMarsico, who's directing. And it makes you realize it's the walk-off sequence with McNeil, the single up the middle. And the camera shots are so important. So if you're listening to this podcast, the next time you see a huge play in a sporting event you're watching, think about all the shots that you see after it unfolds. And that's what the video depicts, is the truck making the decisions of what you see,
right?
Which is such a fascinating part of sports
we have
broadcasting.
a lot of cameras. We have a lot of more than, a regional broadcast, say in St. Louis, Cincinnati. They can't have as many cameras as we have, and our cameramen are tops. They've been here forever. They were there. A lot of them were there when I was playing, and they know what they're doing.
Yep. Yeah, it's really interesting. So I enjoyed your brief twittering. Once again, you're listening to the Shea Anything podcast, brought to you by Verizon. It's 5G built right for the Mets from the network. More people rely on only on Verizon. All right, third of the 3 battle rule, Keith, and that's probably going to do it for us. We went a little bit long on, the All-Star game and twittering. What do you think when there's a runner on, nobody out, Francisco Lindor, the $341 million man, steps up to the plate and sack bunts? What are your thoughts on that?
Yes and no, mainly no. Depends on the game. I still think he's a little far. He's a little ways from getting right. I think if it's the right situation, it's an important game. I think more so maybe if he's struggling in stretch run games late, I wouldn't want him to do it early. You don't want to have him bunt in the first inning, the third inning, the fifth inning. So you want to swing in the bat. But if, say, it's a tie ball game in the ninth or the eighth, and maybe that's the right thing to do. I have no issue with that, but not the first 2/3 of a ball game. I wouldn't even, I would say the first through seventh inning. No, definitely not.
I know that the money has changed in baseball since your playing career, and it's easy for me to sit there and say, yeah, this guy's being paid the most, so he can't bunt, which is not, it's not a direct correlation, but it just makes sense for me to say. But when you're in an actual clubhouse, Keith, and this guy's supposed to be the superstar, the guy who's driving in runs, and he's getting paid more than anybody, is that on anybody's mind when he decides to drop a bunt? Are you expecting that guy to step up and drive in that run in that situation because of those things?
Let's just say I'd rather not have him bunt early in a ball game. Only late in the last 6 weeks of the season, if it's a tight stretch run and the games are important, like September, late in a game, an important game against a divisional foe, or it's crucial, okay, but he's got to swing the bat.
So there are, I'm driving the conversation away from just Lindor specifically and back to your playing career. There are guys, I'm sure you were one of them, in a clubhouse, in a lineup every day, who are expected to produce rather than facilitate. Would you say that's correct?
Yes.
And does it get ever frustrating when somebody tries to kind of switch their role?
No, I just raises my eyebrow. That's all. I don't know what's going on. I don't know what's part of his thinking. I know Louis not putting the bunt on.
No.
Louis, he's not doing that. So I just don't know what kind of a thought process is going on in Francisco. Maybe his confidence is a little low. Maybe he doesn't feel good at the plate. It's been a tough first half for him. He's hitting 219, 220. He's got to be feeling it. It's first year, making that kind of money, as you said, a new fan base, great expectations, and it's been tough on him. But I'll say one thing: he goes out there every day and plays. He's been healthy. He's one of the few that hasn't gotten hurt. And when you come to the ballpark, you can put his name in the lineup card.
I read that he, between his signing bonus with the Mets and his actual base salary this year and his last year of his kind of arbitration, he's making, I think, $43 million total, because once the season's over, his signing bonus kicks in, which, if you do the math, in 2021, I think he's making like $150,000 a day, which it's good. It's good money. So I have that in the back of my mind a lot. And look, I think any Met fan out there thinks he's got to start producing. And when he bunts, I think it's an easy way for Met fans to say,
So you're getting a lot of bad feedback from Met fans. Yeah, I don't follow Twitter. Are they getting upset with this?
Well, no, I'm not really basing this off of Twitter. I guess I'm basing it off of Tatis with the Padres and Lindor signed their contracts right next to each other this past offseason. And one of them is $1 million more than the other. And Tatis is a highlight reel. He's already at 2020 for the season, Keith. His OPS is north of 1,000. He's leading the National League in home runs. He's stealing bases. He's electric. And Lindor, I look back at when he was with the Indians and I wonder, did I watch him closely enough to know whether he ever had those qualities, or is he just having a bad first half and he'll remind us one day of the player that he was to earn that contract? I just don't know.
There's a lot of mental that goes on too. Tatis was not a free agent. Familiar territory, familiar fan base. What I've seen of Lindor is with the numbers he put up in Cleveland, he could not possibly have swung the way he's been swinging, which is very long. You know, he's just very long with his swing. He's not getting the barrel out, and he's said that. And I just can't believe with the numbers that he put up in Cleveland that he swung that way. Yeah. So I'm waiting for him to get out of that long swing. You can check your phone. Go ahead. We can pause.
Well, no, it's the rundown. I'm getting ready to read the Verizon sponsorship.
Oh, okay. But his swing has been long. He's been hitting better right-handed, but still he winds up, and his timing has to be perfect. And left-handed, he's really struggled, I feel. And he's had trouble with the curveball. The breaking ball has really given him a devil of a time.
To use a word of yours, it seems like his fanny's poking out a little too much. Like he's bailing out sometimes.
I think he's better now. He was really in the beginning. He was. I think he's gotten past that. When you have to wind up and you have a long swing, you got to start earlier, and it gets you more out in front, gets you leaning, and makes you swing at bad pitches. Because you have a fast bat, you can stay back and wait long and just use your hands right here. When you've got a big, you got like a pitcher winding up, you got to start early to get the bat out there to make contact, and therefore it leaves you susceptible to a hard breaking ball in the dirt, which he's been swinging at. But he's been better. We'll see. But I still see the long swing. Dom has come around. Dom's swinging the bat better.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that's been good lately. Well, I noticed
Dom has to lay off this pitch up here. He gets a little happy up here, but remember Dom was pulling off bad the whole first half, just about, and he's kind of corrected that. But he's got to learn to stay off this pitch up in his chin, that level. He gets happy with that and can chase.
I thought it was interesting the Brad Boxberger inning the other day. It was the sixth inning of that doubleheader, and the Mets had the bases loaded on walks, and then they struck out with the bases loaded, nobody out. And Lindor struck out looking. I think it was on a fastball, or I might be mixing that up with another at bat. And I was curious to ask you if a strikeout looking at a legitimate strike that's a fastball.
You've been saying it.
Do you think is that a sign that mentally a hitter's struggling, or sometimes just a pitcher makes a perfect pitch?
I think it's analytics. I think analytics is turning a lot of hitters into guest hitters. I really feel that way. Okay, so a pitcher throws 65% curveballs on a 2-1 count. I don't know. We're not privy to how detailed their analytics are. I would love to be able to have them show me what the hell they're doing so I can have a better knowledge of up in the booth. But they're not going to pitch me the same way they're going to pitch Pete Alonso. They're not going to pitch Pete the same way they'd pitch Buddy Harrelson. So how do you differentiate that? If you've got a power hitter that can beat you with one swing, and you got a guy that's just a singles hitter, how do you differentiate? How is it all everybody 65% 2-1? Is it just the mass? That's what he likes to do. So what am I going to do? Look for it? There are some hitters out there that can't hit a curveball, have to look for a curveball. I mean, I play with a lot of them. They didn't like it, and they had to look for it in certain situations to make contact to be successful. I didn't have to do that. I was a good breaking ball hitter. But I don't have the knowledge of really what the details are in there with analytics, but I see a lot. I just really feel, and a lot of people feel in our industry, that the players are becoming more guess hitters.
Okay. Once again, you've been listening to the Shea Anything podcast. Please subscribe, rate, and review to it wherever you get your podcasts. We appreciate it. Once again, Shea Anything's brought to you by Verizon. It's 5G built right for the Mets from the network more people rely on, only on Verizon. Keith, continued success in your recovery from your toe injury. We hope you feel better. I'm excited to have you back in the booth, and thanks for taking the time, despite all that, to do the podcast with us. We appreciate it. We'll talk to you soon.